In 1926, with a look back into the good old days of its comparative youth, New York City celebrates its 300th anniversary. Times and cities change. Here's Bowling Green as it looked in 1826, when Father Knickerbocker was just 200. 100 years later, in 1926, here's same spot. Here's site of Flatiron Building way back when everything was low. And here's what same corner sported as New York became 300 years old. Young New Yorkers of 1926 get into the get-up that was common when Granny was a girl and Grandpa whistled. The lowdown on the high-wheeled horse-drawn carriage is in sharp contrast to the overcrowded underground conveyances that transported New Yorkers in city's 300th year. Direct descendants of Indians who sold Manhattan Island for $24 in beads agree that property has been somewhat improved since they unloaded a few square miles of forest on unsuspecting men from across the sea in days of peg-leg Peter Stuyvesant. Yes, this was New York in 1926. This was the great city's gay white way in 1926. Yes, here was New York 300 years of age. And here's New York in 1950, well on its way to a 400th anniversary and more amazing changes yet to come.
In the 1920s, Dr. Guy Brewster's modern armor to demonstrate to the United States Army that he has the final word in bulletproofing. Facing firing squad, Brewster disappears in cloud of smoke, but after volley of lead, the bulletproofed Dr. Brewster is still standing there. To show lightness of suit, Brewster simulates attack against the enemy.
In Chicago in the 1920s, traffic moves steadily across Chicago River at Wells Street, even though Old Bridge is being replaced by one that's new. At cost of more than $1 million, big steel structure goes up around less modern one without even causing a delay in Chicago traffic. Travelers coming out of Windy City's Loop use Old Bridge until new one gets a roadway. It's a miracle of modern engineering against pretty stiff odds. And Chicago gives due credit to bridge engineer Bertie and his construction superintendent, Crode.
It's 1921, and at Southampton, movie comedian Charles Chaplin gets a rousing welcome from brother Britishers as he comes home. This is year after making The Kid, 4 years before he did hit movie The Gold Rush.
Here's Mildred Harris in a silent movie scene from Borrowed Clothes, a role she played shortly after she became Mrs. Charles Spencer Chaplin. Miss Harris doesn't look at all happy, but then this isn't her real-life wedding. It's only make-believe.
On visit to the United States in 1921, here's Marshal Ferdinand Foch with General Pershing. During World War I, Foch was not only French Field Marshal, but Supreme Commander of all Allied forces, and planned strategy in 1918 which moved Germans back from Marne to utter ruin and defeat.
It's 29th of September 1927. Twister has whirled through sections of St. Louis, Missouri for just 4 minutes, and here are the results. As deadly as it was destructive, whirlwind injures hundreds, and in tumbled rubble, 90 persons are dead. Survivors of sudden storm are stunned by the twister which spun down city streets to rip faces from buildings. search for lost belongings goes on amid scenes of utter ruin. Blasting wind wrecked streets and broke every window in this trolley. Till cleanup squads can get going, there's little to do but gape at damage. It was an ill wind that left lots of St. Louis pretty sick.
It's 1915 as high school girls race through fire drill. Somebody smelled smoke, and these girls know that old adage. So out comes the hand-drawn fire equipment. They're making pretty good time when you consider the number of petticoats they're carrying. In the days before nylons, girls thought even hose such as this was pretty sheer. And you can be sure that this is one old flame that's going to die.
It's 1920, and off Scapa Flow, England, salvage crews have raised ships sunk in sea battles of recent war. This big two-stacker won't be a total loss now. She'll be dismantled and sold at high price for precious scrap. It's dangerous underwater job, and only the most expert of divers try some jobs. Only another sinking will drown out this noise. Here's the German battleship Kaiser coming up from her watery grave. Her metal will now be put to peaceful use.
It's 31st of January, 1930, and attached to underside of Navy dirigible Los Angeles, glider prepares for free flight. With Navy Lieutenant Barnaby snugly in glider cockpit, everything is ready. At 3,000 feet, glider is released from big airship and begins its journey back to the airfield. This is first attempt to launch motorless aircraft from dirigible, and so far, experimenter Barnaby is flying high. After riding winds and air currents for 12 minutes, glider pilot Barnaby glides smoothly toward landing strip for what he hopes will be a happy ending to a happily successful test. Finish couldn't be better, even in the snow. The Navy is more than satisfied with experiment, and Lieutenant Barnaby is very happy landing.
Pardon their backs. It's the 9th of August, 1928, and chiropractors in Los Angeles hold a contest to find the girl with the most perfectly shaped spinal column. Here's a whack at work now on a supposedly beautiful sacroiliac. Tickle, tickle, tickle. Having viewed a variety of feminine vertebrae, judges demand a longer look, so back owners are put on parade. You not only have to have a beautiful backbone, you have to be able to bend it if you want to win. And the girl with the most beautiful and most bendable backbone is Miss Ruth Hirschler. Chiropractor President Wood gives Ruth her reward, and the second most sensational spinal works belongs to Iris Adrian. This was 1928.
It's the 19th of January, 1929, and Mrs. Edwin Clark is lone woman driver in 210-mile dog team derby from Berlin, New Hampshire to Boston, Massachusetts. It's cold day, and the ice is slick and slippery, but it's still rough and tough going, even for the male contestants. At New Nashua, New Hampshire, Mrs. Clark stops for well-earned rest for her team. And if these Huskies show the strain of the contest, well, you can imagine how race has affected Mrs. Clark. Here's Mr. Clark touting his team into strong effort for rest of the race. And when lead team gets to Boston, it isn't Mrs. Clark who's first to cross finish line. That honor goes to Mr. Edward Clark. An injured knee and frozen foot kept Mrs. Clark from finishing ahead of pack, but she deserves and needs these warm congratulations just the same. It's 25th of November, 1926, and Thanksgiving Handicap is featured race of opening day card at Southern California's Tijuana. And they're off to a fast start on a fast track, with Cherry Tree #1 pulling ahead of the pack as the horses leap from the starting gate and lean into the first turn. The pack thins out only slightly as the field sticks with Cherry Tree down the back stretch. The leader's margin hardly varies as the contenders drive for the far turn. The far turn and into the home stretch, it looks like anybody's race, till Cherry Tree puts on a finish drive to keep the lead. And pounding toward the wire, it's Cherry Tree in victory and a win for #1.